You'll recall that we've been looking at a book entitled Living Your Discipleship. I show this each week. Subtitles are 7 Ways to Express Your Deepest Calling and A Practical Guide to Following Christ in Daily Life. I need a lot of that. I need practical advice. Specifically, what we've been discussing, what I've called the various attributes of a disciple. And the authors have listed the following as characteristics of a disciple. A disciple is a follower, a worshiper, a witness, a neighbor, a forgiver, a prophet, and a steward. And so in the first two classes, we looked at the definition of a disciple as someone who is a pupil of a teacher or some other influential person, and how a disciple is a follower and a worshiper. And we looked at examples in both the Old and the New Testaments. And today, I'd like to look at the characteristic of us being a witness, both for God and Jesus. The authors state that to be a witness means to give a testimony, to proclaim, or to announce a message. In both the Old Testament and the New Testament, to give a witness is related to speaking the truth about what one has seen and what one knows. That's a pretty good definition, I think. And there are many examples of those who could be called witnesses. Who is the first name that comes to mind when you think about someone in the Bible that is a great witness? John the Baptist. That's who came to my mind first. What about others? What about others either in the Old or the New Testament? Paul, definitely. Was he an eyewitness? No. Nevertheless, Peter, definitely. Mary Magdalene? Is that what you said?
Yep.
Yep. Okay.
First witness to the resurrection.
Witness to the resurrection? The first witness. Hello, Phillips. See y'all. Have a good time. They came in for sustenance before the church on the bridge, under the bridge. Anyone else that you can think of?
I think of Elijah.
Okay.
The vision that he had of the dead bones in the valley and what it meant. To tell the nation this is what's going to happen.
Elijah and his lesson of the dead bones in the valley as it pertained to the nation of Israel. Okay. I was thinking about I'm sorry. Karen. Yeah, I can't see her on the
Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, witnesses.
Right.
Through their gospels.
Can you put her on one of these? Gary, thank you. I could have done that. I get up here and I lose my mind. What about Jacob when he wrestled with right? Moses, Joshua. Okay. The prophets, the apostles. Joseph. Mm-hmm. He probably talked about Jesus. Have you seen my son? As Karen said, writers of the New Testament, especially the Gospels. What about Jesus? Jesus? Jesus was a witness to God, right? For God.
John, in addition to his gospel and the letters that he wrote, the vision that he saw and witnessed what was happening in the book of Revelation and what waits for us in heaven.
Mm-hmm. John, as he related what he saw in his visions and related in the book of Revelation, definitely. Stephen? Demons. Definitely. One of them said, "What do you want with me, O Son of God?" or something like that. I'm sorry. That's right. That's right. Followed Paul. Oh, the woman who pestered Paul. Woman at the well. She definitely went back and told everyone that she could find in the town, and they all came to listen to him. One thing I found kind of interesting, the demon said, called Jesus Son of God. Of course, God called him his son when he was baptized by John. And there's one other that in the New Testament that called Jesus the Son of God. Yeah. The centurion at the crucifixion, surely this was the Son of God. I thought that was interesting. Luke begins in chapter 1 of his book, and I'm going to read it to you. Many have undertaken to draw up an account of the things that have been fulfilled among us, just as they were handed down to use by those who from the first were eyewitnesses and servants of the Lord. Therefore, since I myself have carefully investigated everything from the beginning, it seemed good also to me to write an orderly account for you, most excellent Theophilus, so that you may know the certainty of the things you have been taught. And I didn't really realize it until I looked at Luke this time that, okay, Luke was not an eyewitness to Jesus, okay? But he was a convert in the early church, and he set out to interview those who were eyewitnesses and produced a summary of his life, Jesus's life and his works and his sayings. Now, it is obvious that he deeply researched the accounts of Jesus's life, relying heavily on the reports of the eyewitnesses, as evidenced by the details and the facts that he laid out in his book. Cheryl.
So he was one of the first investigative journalists.
One of the first investigative journalists. Could very well have been. I mean, look at the detail there in the first few chapters. So I would say that he depended very heavily upon the eyewitnesses. No, he He came afterwards. He was a contemporary of Paul. I'm sorry?
He was a doctor too, wasn't he?
And what?
A doctor.
A doctor? Okay. I think so. So he was a learned man. Anyway, I just thought that was interesting how detailed it was, but he didn't see these things, and he gave an account, the history, the lineage. It just amazed me. Jesus calls upon his disciples to follow him as witnesses. Just as he bears witness to the Father, he calls his disciples to be a witness to all that God has done in and through him, being Jesus. In Luke chapter 24, beginning in verse 36, Jesus, the 11 and those with them were gathered together in Jerusalem, and Jesus came to them. Okay, I mean, he just poof appeared in the room after his resurrection, and that really scared them. They were frightened because they thought they were seeing a ghost. I don't know how that is, but evidently they believed in ghosts and they thought Jesus was one. All right. And so, but what does Jesus say? Don't be afraid. He's talking about his flesh, right? He pointed out the physical reality of his body by what? Right. He showed him the wounds of his hands and of his feet. And he asked for something to eat because he was hungry. So he's trying to show them, yes, I'm here physically. Okay. And then I want to read to you the following from continuing in that chapter and beginning in verse 41. I'm sorry, 44. He said to them, "This is what I told you while I was still with you. Everything must be fulfilled that is written about me in the law of Moses, the prophets, and the Psalms." Then even up to the end, the disciples were doubting, right? I mean, they saw what happened to him through his arrest and trials, and they just poof. And I think John was the only disciple there at the crucifixion. Is that not right? Plus some others that were followers.
I think he's the only one
Named. Yeah. John was the only one named. But so, and they were dejected after the crucifixion because now he's gone. Now, what are we going to do? Right? So, no wonder they were skeptical about him, and he had to prove to them that he was real. But then in verse 45, then he opened their minds so they could understand the scriptures. He told them, this is what is written. The Christ will suffer and rise from the dead on the third day. And repentance and forgiveness of sins will be preached in his name to all nations, beginning at Jerusalem. You are witnesses of these things. I am going to send you what my Father has promised, but stay in the city until you have been clothed with power from on high. I wanted to read that verbatim because I didn't want to mess it up. Okay. Because I think that's just amazing that I don't know what he did to open their eyes, but it must have been a great revelation to them at that time. And giving them encouragement as well. Right? A one-off event? Definitely. Definitely. I'm going to have to go back and reread Luke after what I've learned during this short amount of study and try to pick up some of the details and nuances about what he writes about. You know. But what were the disciples witnesses of? And again, I want to read to you verbatim what the authors wrote because they said it's so much better than I can even paraphrase it. And what are they to be witnesses of? You are witnesses, he says, to all of this, my whole life, my death, and now my resurrection. You can witness to the stories I have told, the people who were healed, the lost who were found, and the broken who were mended. You can tell people that I suffered and died, but I did it for love. What's that? What did he tell them at one time? People, will know you are my disciples by your love. Jesus did it for love. You can witness to the new life I have been given by God's power to overcome sin and death. And whom should they tell, and who would believe them? In the opening scene of the Acts of the Apostles, which Luke also wrote, Jesus promises to send the Spirit upon the disciples, telling them to be my witnesses in Jerusalem and in Judea and Samaria and to the ends of the earth. Together with other disciples, his church, the church, becomes a great cloud of witnesses on which later generations can depend. And that's from Hebrews 12. So I think it's pretty explicit on the part of Jesus to tell them, here's what you can say about me. You've seen these things. You're witnesses to them. Then later he says, do not be afraid. Yeah, I'm definitely going to have to go back and read that again. So how are we to be called to be witnesses? Much the same way. Tell of what you know and what the Lord has done in your life.
And repeat some of the same stories.
Repeat the stories that they've told. Definitely. That's probably the easiest one. Yes, ma'am.
The way you live.
The way you live. I'm going to get to that. Here's a statement. Witness for Christ each day. And if necessary, use words. This statement has been attributed to St. Francis of Assisi. I kind of like that. Maybe it's because I don't say a whole lot usually. As Alicia said, if we are to be disciples of Christ, it begins with how we live our lives, what we say and what we do each and every day. And so, how are we as believers, as children of God, and as the body of his church, how are we to be witnesses for Christ? You mentioned some of those. Tell the stories that the disciples told. Tell how God has been active in your life. Demonstrate how God is love. Right.
When you meet people who choose to share snippets of their life with you.
People who share tidbits.
Offer to pray for them.
Oh, when people share tidbits of their life with you, offer to pray for them. You know, I don't know about you, but it is hard for me to talk about God and Jesus when I'm out and about. You know, I wanted to do that at work, but I didn't. The most I could do is invite them to come to church. That's the most I felt comfortable doing. Because I don't think there were very many in the small group that I worked within, about 15 people or so. Not many went to church. And so I was always thinking about, what could I say to somebody who may be interested, or maybe someone who expressed an interest. But I never really got that opportunity because most of them didn't go to church. They weren't interested.
But you set an example, didn't you? Yes, you did.
Well, hopefully set an example. Yeah.
There's a very old poem that says, I'd rather see a sermon than to hear one any day. And it goes through the gentle things that we can do and we may not say anything, but just the things that we do, the outreach, our attitude, our words.
Modeling. Showing people what we do. Did you have the mic? It's on me. Okay, thank you. Laura said that somebody said that they would rather see a sermon than to hear one, basically. Right. Mona, you had something you wanted to say, didn't you? No? Okay. All right.
Just that words speak louder than, actions speak louder than words.
Actions speak louder than words. They kind of tend to stick with you, don't they? You can remember those. You can go, oh yeah, forgot what he said, but I saw him do this,
Those folks that are going to church under the bridge are feeding people.
Michelle said it's people that have gone to church under the bridge today. They are feeding, and I'm going to say, and serving people just as Jesus would have. Also, I was reading about how Jesus' story about when you throw a banquet, don't just invite your friends who will repay you and invite you to their gatherings, but to invite basically those from the street, the sinners, the people that you don't normally associate with. Wow, that's a tough one, huh? I don't think I've ever invited somebody to come to my house that I didn't know to come and eat. One time when we were living in Oklahoma City, Michelle and I went out for breakfast one Saturday morning. It was like a Cheddar's or something like that. And there was this woman sitting over there waiting for a table just like we were. And we kind of talked with her. I don't know if you remember this. She was a little bit older than us, a black woman. She came in by herself and sat down. And we asked her, were you planning to eat alone? And she said, yeah. I said, we said, why don't you join us? I said it. Oh, okay. And so she did. Thankfully, she accepted, and we had a great visit with her. And just one of those things, So, but I've gotten off the topic here. I'm gonna.
Actually, on.
I'm not very technologically advanced.
One of the main reasons I said you can offer to pray for them is because the most astonishing thing that's probably ever happened in my life in the field of what we're talking about was at the Red Apple sale at Foley's many years ago. My best friend was in from Chicago. She timed her visit to be sure she was in town for the Red Apple sale. And we were there, and there was this woman that was obviously very lonely. We were all shopping in the large women's department. And she made a couple of comments about moving down here to Houston at the time to be with her son and his family, but it hadn't turned out to be what she'd hoped. They really weren't making much time for her, but they were going to take her to the rodeo. She says, I've never been to a rodeo. I don't know what I'm supposed to wear to a rodeo. So she wanted our input. No, she just wanted conversation and human contact, but we gave her our input. And after we'd been shopping and chatting, we were getting ready to get in the cash register line. In fact, just as I said this, we did get in the line, Renee and I. And I said, well, Betty, her name was Betty Early. I still remember it after 40 years. I will be praying for you. How many thousands of times have we said that to people? Have you ever been at the Red Apple sale and have a woman grab your hand, raise it high with hers and say, oh, yes, please? And I'm going, okay. Renee's looking at me with eyes that look like she's in the headlights of it. And, what do? You got to pray. I offered to pray. She thought I meant right then. And so at the Red Apple sale, we had 3 or 4 women get checked out going past us because Renee just kept motioning them on to go ring out. And she told, of course, all my other friends about it that lived there. So the elders came and said, I hear you're starting a new ministry. We're doing mercantile evangelism now.
Going to the mall.
It was not what I expected to happen, and it was a wonderful opportunity. I had a bunch of ladies pat me on the shoulder as they went by, and one of them saw me later in the mall and said, I would never have, she said, I heard that whole thing. I would never have been able to do that right then and there. And I said, well, I shouldn't open my big mouth if I don't intend to do it. So it was, he makes opportunities for us. It's just, will we go ahead and take them? You know,
That's a great story. I don't, I don't know why, but sometimes when we're out in public, Michelle and I are out to eat or do something, and I can talk to a complete stranger and say something to them, and just hi, how you doing, blah blah blah, whatever, and sometimes those turn into conversations, and like you're talking about, Cheryl, and I think of those moments. Those are gems to me. Those little opportunities where you can connect with somebody, and more than just a hey, how you doing kind of thing. You know what I mean? So anyway. I'm going to wrap up here. We've only covered 3 of the 7 characteristics that was mentioned in the book. The others are neighbor, being a neighbor, which is a good one. Being a forgiver, a prophet, and a steward. And I chose to talk about these 3, and I was trying to get to neighbor as well, but I was having a little bit of difficulty with the last 3: a forgiver and a prophet. I'm not a prophet. And a steward.
When you're witnessing, you're prophesying.
Is that right?
I believe so.
When you're witnessing, you're prophesying.
Exactly.
Is that right?
prophecy is not just that.
Okay.
That's what the book says.
Prophecy. That would be a neat little study right there itself, wouldn't it? So would anybody like to comment on further on those attributes, or can you think of any others that were not listed here, but we know that could be good examples of being a disciple?
I don't think it was on your list, but part of being a disciple obviously is following. That you said it's a follower. It's someone who testifies. All these things. Typically, disciples really get into what the teacher is saying, what the teacher is, if you will, preaching.
Okay.
You can't, I believe, be a really effective disciple unless you really know what the teacher says. And that in our day, we can't sit and listen. We have to read and study what he said.
Mona. And be a student. Student.
Gary mentioned testifying. Is that the same thing as witnessing? No.
I think it can be. Because when you testify in a courtroom, you're in the witness box, right? One thing I did not allude to in this series of discussions was discipline. Spiritual discipline. I wonder if that could be related to the word disciple. Right? I would think so. I'll have to investigate that too. So, all right, I'm kind of running out of time here. I submit to you that being a disciple for Christ is a lifelong journey. I believe that there are many paths we could take in order to serve Jesus as his disciples. Do we have to take each one of these? Do we have to be each one of these to be a true disciple? Do we have to be all this? Do all that? Or can we really just be good, be really good at one or more of these things, these attributes? You think so, Mona? I hope so, because I sure can't be all of this. These are just a few of the questions that came to mind while I was preparing for this. And I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you. And I appreciate your attention and your participation and your thoughts, sharing your thoughts and ideas during this time. Karen, I didn't call on you, but if you have anything you'd like to add, please jump right in, okay? So, or Danny. Danny's good. Okay. Again, thank you very much. Gary will be leading us beginning October, November. Is that correct? I guess. Well, that's all I've prepared for today. If you need another time, let me know. If you need an extra. That's right. I'm about to leave on a trip, so I'm not going to be here. We'll be here next Sunday? Okay. The next Sunday. Speaking of which, Doc. Okay, Dave, you've got Elders Moment today. And Doc, you're after Dave, but you're going to be gone next week. Is that correct? Did I hear that? I'm sorry? You should be here? Okay. Right. Yeah, next Sunday is the 2nd. Okay. Okay, well, we're going to be gone on the, what is that? On the 9th. We're going to be gone on the 9th. So I was just trying to make sure we had our bases covered the next couple of weeks. And you're after Doc, is that right, Lawrence? I guess, for Elders Moment. Okay. Yeah, because I thought, okay, if Doc's not here, then it would be Lawrence. But then I'm going to be gone the following, so because I'm after Lawrence. Does that make sense? I'm trying to get everything covered. No. Unless you need me to. Okay. Thank you all very much.